I'm Donna.
And I'm Michael. We're the Feckners.
We're ordinary people. In fact, we're just teachers.
But as we've said before, Donna, we're not just ordinary teachers. We've been led on an extraordinary journey over the last 10 years.
Life has presented us with some unusual opportunities over these past 10 years, and despite the risks involved, we have embraced them fully and...
Our glass is now overflowing with possibilities. We never know.
What happens next?
So why not?
Take the chance.
And here we are, Donna, again.
And I'm opening a bottle of Moet and Chandon today.
Moet and
From
Chandon.
Epinay. There it is.
Oh,
Ready to go. Nice and fresh.
I can hardly wait to sample this one this afternoon, Donna.
Let's go.
Well, folks, the last time we were together, we spoke about the teenagers on their wonderful trip to Australia. And on one of the trips that we made with them, we went to Canberra to meet the Prime Minister of the day. And
that was a really big deal. That came out of the blue. You didn't know you were going to see the Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, at the time. And to take these kids from France was an amazing opportunity.
And a lot of them had said, look, we can't even see the local member in France, but here we are meeting the Prime Minister of Australia. It was a really big deal. And at the time, it was the MH17 crash that had occurred in Europe. And Tony Abbott was really busy, but he made time for these kids. He thought it was that important. So it was an amazing experience. So we're on the plane going down.
Well, I wasn't.
No.
I was working, paying the bills. But you were, Michael, with the
We
kids.
were on the plane going
Somehow
down.
that seems to be a current little theme that carries through our lives, Michael. But you go for it. Go for it, darling. I'll just have a sip of my wine.
We were on the plane, Donna, and we're going to Canberra. And as we sat there, I had the Lost Diggers book, Ross Coulthard's book, the kids had all signed. They were going to give it to Tony Abbott. And I managed to sit next to this guy. And I got chatting to him, as I do when we're together with people.
Can't imagine that would have been the truth.
I know. So we chatted, and his name was Paul Brenner. And as we got to know him a little bit more, he told me that he was a documentary maker. And he just loved the story that was being told. He could not believe. He'd never heard about the glass plates of Vignavourt. He didn't know too much. And he couldn't believe that we had all these kids on the plane going to meet the Prime Minister. So it was quite exciting. And he said, listen, it'd make a really great documentary. And I said, well, hold it, Paul. Channel 7 have already done that. Their wonderful team had already made a documentary on the Lost Diggers, so it wasn't something that was likely to occur. So he said, look, let's still talk about it. There's other avenues. So we got off the plane, best of mates. I had a business card, and on we went. And it continued. So we continued on, and...
But you went and saw the Prime Minister, and how was that?
The Prime Minister was fantastic.
Seeing I wasn't there, how was that?
He was unbelievable. He listened to the kids and could not believe that the kids had come all the way from France. He couldn't believe that they were researching these Lost Diggers, who the kids had done an amazing job. The previous week in Brisbane, they did a Redlands concert where they did this amazing thing, and it was just incredible. They told a story. They owned this story, and here they were in Australia meeting descendants.
And in the picture today, one of the kids is dressed in a suit with a bow tie because he knew he was visiting the Prime Minister.
Quite special.
Yeah.
Quite special.
They were stoked.
So while we're in Canberra, we obviously got to the French embassy. We met the ambassador. These kids were fated on. They were wonderful. They could not believe what they had. And I think only when they got back to France, they realised just how important their little trip was.
So you had been to Perth, Adelaide, Canberra,
Brisbane, Sydney,
Brisbane.
Adelaide. We'd done it all. We'd seen all the diggers and the kids then.
Over 10 days? It was a pretty
Oh, no, it was a lot, Donna. It was nearly a month. It was nearly a month.
Oh, okay.
It was nearly
Sorry,
a month.
I was working.
It was nearly a month. But the kids got on the plane and they flew back to France after this incredible experience. And it was quite wonderful. In our back pocket...
Not just from their point of view, though, but from the descendants who they met, who teared up, who dressed up, who made lifelong friendships with some of them and their families that which still continue today. So it was great for both sides, not just for the French.
No, and they look the descendants, and as I said, I think in a previous podcast, the fact was that the descendants had not, many of them are not alive today, and so it's quite an amazing piece of experience, and the photographs and everything are history that will never disappear, which is great. So we've done the trip. It was fantastic. The success, as far as I was concerned, for us all, it was a wonderful trip.
Well, we've never been on about the money or that. It was a feeling good moment, and the kids, even to today, who are now adults, still talk about that amazing trip they had when they came down under.
And it's just been 10 years. This last Anzac Day, it was 10 years.
Which they celebrated in Vignavourt with mementos and photos and videos of the whole tour, because a lot of it was captured on film and video, because we were considering doing a doco about it, but complications arose and we didn't get ahead with doing that. So the kids went back home and we went back to work.
We went back to work. So we're back at work and we're continuing to do the things we do every day. We were keeping fingers on the pie of what was happening. Unfortunately, when the kids got back to France, again, they went off to unis and everything. So the story sort of for them, it was important, but it disappeared a little bit.
But I think that anyone can identify with that. You have this real rush, whether it be a holiday overseas or a special occasion or something that just happens out of the blue, and then you have to return to real life because you can't keep continuing this dream state. So we were very proud of what we had done. We were thankful to Lucille and to Alison and to the people from Vignavourt and their parents who gave them permission to come over. We were thankful to everybody, to David and to who's the other fellow?
Emmanuel.
Yeah,
Manu.
We were thankful to them for coming over and taking videos and watching everything that was happening and asking questions and documenting everything. We were thankful, and we know that the Australian soldiers from 100 years ago were also thankful because their families said that every moment that they had a chance to.
So we're back in Australia doing our own thing, and out of the blue, I get a phone call from Paul Brenner. He was. This
was a little bit later down the track. It
was just before Christmas too, after the kids had gone home, and he said to us, "Look, you know that book that you showed me all about the lost diggers and everything." He said, "Look, I think we could probably do something better than a documentary. Would you be interested in doing something more?" And of course, why not take a chance? Donna and I did, and we said, look, yeah, that's a great idea. So we entered into discussions then with Paul and a fellow person who was working with him called Jihan Pak, and they said that they thought that we could actually make a movie. Donna, a movie about this.
Yeah, and look, that came left of centre, but we've always been attached to the possibilities of this project, and we've always gone with the flow. But when Paul suggested this, of course we thought, we were so proud of the story, and we thought this is something that other people should know about, because we realised that there were many Australians who thought that maybe they had somebody who fought in World War I and went into this little village of Vignavourt, and it wasn't through watching them scouring all of the historical data in Brisbane at the display, realising that people were hungry. And we thought, you know what, this little couple, the Tullier and Vignavourt, Louis and Antoinette, they did an amazing thing, and this little village is still alive with the thoughts of that 100 years later. So how privileged are we to have the chance to tell the rest of the world that? And as Paul said, a movie would be faster to get the message out, because our whole preface was to have more soldiers identified. That's all we wanted. In that photographic collection, we wanted names put to those beautiful young faces. And if the movie was a way to get that out faster than any other thing, like a trip overseas for a group of teens from the village, then we were all for it.
But Donna, there's one problem. You and I are not movie makers. We know nothing about making movies.
And as you go through this podcast with us, you will hear frequently how we have been reminded and questioned as to why we want to make a movie and who are we and why should we, and you are just teachers. So step back, let us who know the business do it. But you know what? We had a story in our hands and it was ours with the ancestors and with the descendants and with these teens. We weren't going to give it up because we knew the heart that was involved in that.
So Paul talked to us a bit about it and we left it.
And Paul was great. Paul wasn't one of those people.
He was fantastic. So we went away again and Donna and I started talking about it. And Donna, you always had a bit of an idea of a story, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at it from the point of view from Antoinette and Louis and Louis's own hell from Verdun, etc., and also being a descendant of a couple of soldiers from World War One and knowing the joy of having their names discovered and finding their graves or where they're lying is just such a buzz. So I was attached emotionally before it even started. Now to put it on screen, absolutely, that would be even better than just talking about it. So I was all in. You were all in.
I was all in the moment I met him on the plane. If we could have done anything else.
You're all in if you drive through McDonald's and get a $6.95 pack.
But
so that's not the problem. The problem is the reality, and we are 9 years later.
We are
still dealing with that reality.
And that's another story.
And we will lead to that. But can we, as teachers, as somebody outside the film industry, even ponder the idea of putting our story on film?
So Paul was very keen. We started chatting about it at home and putting together a rough script and just some ideas, really, some whiteboarding the whole thing.
Well, for some of us, it was magnanimous, and that was Michael. For me, it was just a couple of thoughts in my head. But of course, Michael took it and went to town. But it wasn't until we met together as a little group that it started to fortify and make sense.
So in 2015, we made a really big decision. We made the really big decision to give up work for the time being.
Yeah, that was huge.
Donna resigned from her position at school as a prep teacher, which was wonderful.
Well, no, I love teaching.
Yeah, we know.
Prep.
But this was a new chance, though.
It's who I am. But I had a story to tell, and we'd had a feeling that it was moving quite quickly, and the momentum and the connections and the people dropping into our lives, ringing us out of the blue, talking to us, meeting us on a plane, going to the Prime Minister was out of control.
Yeah.
So we had to go with that energy and say, this is something bigger than us.
And I think, Donna, you've said many times, this whole journey, we're people who take a look at what's happening around us and we act upon it, don't we?
I look for signs every day, and there were too many signs to ignore. So from the whole point of my soldiers arriving at the end of the bed during a dream, now we've got the Prime Minister involved, now we've got a movie maker and
who's interested,
a script guy and a lighting guy and a cinematographer who are willing to come and be with us in France and do some filming and script writing. So
we were off to France for Anzac Day in 2015, and Donna and I set up base in a little place called Corby. Corby is about 5 minutes down the road from Villers-Bretonneux.
Just down the road. You could walk to VB if you had to. Especially to where they have the Anzac Memorial Services.
A beautiful cathedral in town, a lovely little place. It's on the Somme. And just again, as it happens, we ran into a guy at one of the barbecues that we'd started having in the Vignavourt town because we wanted to have this experience every year. So for Anzac Day, we'd have a barbecue, and we'd had one in a previous year where we had the barn, the original barn where the photographs were taken, set up, and we had a barbecue there, didn't we?
We bought some VB And, of course, as Aussies, we just want a sausage sizzle, but our beautiful French friends want salad.
That was the
and
experience in
baguette,
itself.
And they wanted something really special, and we just said, no, just
We
throw
thought
it.
a sausage sizzle.
I was thinking Bunnings.
Yep, sausage sizzle. We thought would have-
Onions, if you're lucky.
Yep, a bread roll, a drink.
No, a piece of bread.
Yep.
And you put a sausage in the middle of it, and if you're lucky, get some chunions on top. But
no, that wasn't the French way, Donna.
No. So that was the beginning of a new world of learning.
We had 44 drums that were cut in, 44-gallon drums that were cut in half. Timber was stacked in the bottom. The fire was lit, and there were hundreds of sausages put on these grills on the top.
And we'd organised this. They came from Australia,
The local butcher of Australia,
along with VB, and we had 200 people at the first barbecue. So we
set up in the original barn where the Tullios had taken
we said,
Fatio.
oh my God, this is deja vu. This is 100 years later. This is rolling.
We had a group of Australians there. We had a group of Australians.
We sang them, of course, Waltzing Matilda, your typical stuff.
The barn nearly burnt down though, Donna, because the barbecue.
They didn't have a cover on the barbecue.
Oh, how a nice little barbecue for Bunnings would have done so well.
Yeah, it would have. Anyway. Since then, we have been involved in their barbecues and supported them by supplying some Australian products or
Every year.
Indigenous didgeridoo players. Like we've been involved to keep the spirit burning.
Every year we've had a barbecue. We've called it the Anzac Day barbecue. They eventually led into having a run as well called the Anzac Run. So the little start of meeting those kids in the barn when we first went there has led to this all of a sudden. And now, not only that, but in just a couple of weeks' time, we had Paul Brenner and Jihan Pak arrive, our director and producer.
And our little mate Michael Foster, who came along to help us write the original script.
He was a technical advisor, and he came from a communications background.
And a good mate.
And a good listener.
So Gian had been doing script writing. We dabbled. I'm just a teacher, but I know good stories and I know how to write. But anyway, Gian was amazing and wrote after about 4 days of knuckling down.
We visited a lot of sites first, didn't we?
Well, we started to write first to get the feel, and then we said, well, we need to think about a trailer and we need to think about filming something to get people, a teaser to get people involved. So what do we want? Where do we want to go? We've got 2 weeks for it to happen. Let's see. And then it's going to cost money. So
and that's the big problem. We walked up and down. I remember you and I and Mike walking up and down the canal of the Somme discussing the dollars because, again, we're not into the business of filmmaking. Well, we weren't, but everything was in $10,000 or $5,000 lots.
Well, and you were ready, and I wasn't, because I'm the one who keeps going to
We
work.
had some backing. We knew we had a little bit of backing to do a little bit, but everything was in $5,000, $10,000 lots. Having Paul and Jihan there, bringing over the cinematographer, making...
And look, we're not blaming them at all.
No.
And we realised that something had to be done in order to get this story out there. So we...
Paul was very honest, though. He said to us, I remember his honesty in saying to us, listen, we're going to get you started on this, but we probably won't be there at the end in terms of making it.
How true is that?
He was a doco maker.
Yeah.
Doco maker, but he and Gian sat there and we had butcher's paper on the wall in the residence in Corby.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, interestingly enough, though, the serendipity bit that happened, again, we met a guy at one of the barbecues and he was an Australian guy and he had a house that he owned in Corby, and that was the house we rented for the month when we were there. So again, it all just fell into place. Just fell into place.
So it was amazing, and then the day before we decided to film the trailer, there was a readery happening in Corby. A readery is a flea market. So I bought all the costumes except for the military uniforms, which our friend Laurent Maroux supplied. Rosie's outfit, the locket, boots, scarf, all those sorts of things. I bought them at the readery. I probably spent €20.
Yeah, but not a lot, but they were great clothes.
Not a lot, and they were amazing. So we went and bought all of those. We went and filmed in the barn in Vignavourt.
Before they'd actually knocked it down and done different things to make the museum.
with a bunch of actors
And another young
slash
guy.
comedians from Paris.
Another young guy got some actors.
Yeah,
David Shaw.
got
He was
some actors
involved,
for us.
and he got some actors. Brought in some really interesting people that had been. And look, it cost us €50 for the day to have them there.
And food and drink, and we were just beginning to be involved in the film industry.
And Paul and Gian were fantastic. All of a sudden, we had these guys. Actually, we were in the midst of the filming, and here they were doing it. They were unbelievable. We were taking shots of it. We were all involved. It was just incredible watching all these things take place, doing it all little bits. And we roamed the countryside, picking places that
finding places that we thought would fit the teaser, the parts of Rosie and Antoinette and Louis, and it was an amazing experience. So from our point of view, energy was just flowing, and we're thinking, we can't say, if we say no to this now, we lose everything that we've gained in the past.
We've been scouting locations. We'd had these actors that had come from Poland. We'd had all sorts of people doing things for us. We'd visited towns and little villages where there were houses that looked to be the part that might be good for scenery. Paul suggested we need a promo document as well, a promo and a teaser.
So a series and a slip of video. So we approached the mayor of Vignavourt, Stéphane Ducourtois, and asked him if we could use the Tuileries House and the barn, which existed at that time. It doesn't exist anymore. And he said yes. So every time we were scared about stepping forward and going into this industry that we know nothing about, the boundaries fell down, and so we just kept going with it, and filmed a magnificent trailer that we will attach after this.
A few more walks up and down the Somme in terms of the dollars, because Paul did say this is how much it was going to cost, and that's what we needed for post-production. And remember, this is only a 2 or 3 minute piece that was never going to be the movie, but it was going to be something that would hopefully attract financiers down the track to show what it might have been like. And as Donna said, that little teaser, I still believe, is a fantastic piece, and it really shows.
And I'd be very proud to still use that, because it's authentic and it's from our hard-earned money.
It is. And Donna, what about the day though? We're up in the barn and we're filming.
So this was a little bit later.
Yeah.
After the filming had ceased, and we were just about ready to come home. And you and the beautiful Laurent Marouz were just looking upstairs, checking out the attic.
Remember, Laurent was the gentleman who actually originally talked about these plates back in the 1990s.
So he's
kept in cut.
He's committed to the story.
He's one of our advisors on the film as well.
So I was downstairs packing everything up because filming had finished, and all I could hear from upstairs, so I'm downstairs, so this is 3 stories up, so in the attic. All I could hear was, oh mon Dieu, oh my God, what do we do? And I heard the yelling. I thought, oh God, what's going on? All right, somebody's lost a leg or an arm, I've got to go up there. So I traipsed upstairs to the attic, and here were Laurent and Michael on the floor, just laughing and cuddling each other with all of these glass plates surrounding them. They had gone digging, and I'm not surprised because Michael is like that.
I put my hand down behind one of the shelves where the roof comes down. And behind it, 27 more glass photographic plates of Louis' plates were there. They must have been stacked and fallen down. And back when when Kerry Stokes and the team bought the plates and took them back to Australia, as I said to you earlier on, the French were a little bit duped, they felt, because they didn't have it. And all of a sudden, we've got these 27 more plates, and we're holding them up to the light. Laurent is holding them up, and here are Aussie soldiers again. One on a horse, one in front of the barn.
And then
Incredible.
The dilemma is,
what do we do?
Do we tell Kerry Stokes? Do we tell the mayor? What do we do? We found some plates. It would be nice for the village to have some plates. Kerry Stokes has got his own collection. Who are these people? Are any of them some of the fellows we've already tried to research? So all I heard was, oh mon Dieu, oh my God, what are we going to do? So that was a crazy afternoon.
It was like finding the treasure on the Titanic, because even though they had found the glass plates in the barn a number of years previously. To find these that were there and to hold them was just incredible. To know that this glass plate Louis had stacked there back in the 1916,
And
1918
then once again,
time.
there's serendipity, right?
Yep.
We're packing up, we're ready to come home to Australia, and here's Louis has said, come up to my attic, I've got something else to keep you excited about this, keep you hungry. So
It's on again.
We found these glass plates and we gave them to the mayor.
So the mayor, we decided that that they were finders keepers, losers
because at
weepers.
that stage they were talking
Yeah.
about setting up a museum. The
Yeah.
Australian government was involved in plans to
And there were
produce
no
a
glass
museum.
plates that would be in the museum. So these glass plates now exist in the museum.
And they're real.
And they're real.
They're original.
And they're incredible. So just an incredible story.
So that happened, and then we were about to come home, and then somebody said, have you seen the caves of Nile?
Oh.
So we went to Nile, which is 10 minutes down the road. Magnificent cave system where our boys had written, and English, had written their names on these cave walls in lead pencil before they went to the major battles of World War One.
And there's 2,500 signatures on these caves underneath the town of Knowles.
Yeah.
And
medieval cave system where the French would hide during any kind of invasion, and our boys discovered it as a place of quiet and a place of retreating away from all the noise and the hubbub of a war. There are English signatures.
There's Americans there. There's
There are lots of
Australians,
different
New Zealanders.
signatures. But we were, just before we came home, we thought, oh my God, here's
Here's another one. And
here's another chapter. So we started talking to Gilles Prilot, and we started to talk to the people involved in the Nile cave system, and said, we will work with you, Gilles, and we will write a book.
so here we go. We've got a film on the way that we don't know where it's going. We've committed to a book to come back and think about a book on these caves. We've also found that there were some people in Vignavourt, because Vignavourt had no names on the pictures. We don't know who they are. We rely on people to identify them. The beauty about the Noah's Caves, they've got names and dates and battalions. So we have got these soldiers by name. And we've found out that at least 3 of them we know have been identified.
That was the plan. Can we cross-reference?
Because if they were in Vignavourt...
Did some of them go to Vignavourt and then go to the caves? Because the boys would have said, come on down to the caves because it's a great place to chill. So we came home with all of that information, and thank you, Gilles. We worked with him and produced our first book called Silent Soldiers of Nile.
And that, again,
Which, by the way, is sold out. So good luck finding a copy. But it's a great read.
But look, again, the journey the box just opens wider. And we've had all these experiences with, what's begun as just a little bit of a little flame and a flicker has now become a great big fire. And we know that these journeys are continuing. We've got the story there. We've got it all. So what we'd like to do, we're going to give you a bonus podcast this week because we had a lovely interview with the ABC all about the Noah's Caves. So if you don't know anything about them, listen to the bonus podcast we'll put up because it tells you about where they are, what they're all about. And if you're in Vignavourt, it's only 10 minutes down the road. So it's worthwhile going to have a look.
Absolutely.
And don't forget...
I came home because I went back to teaching.
We need to come back. We needed to come back and
pay some bills.
And we got to the situation now where we knew that we needed to have money to be able to make this film. And Paul told us very clearly that, we didn't have the teaser yet. It had to come back and be produced. So there was another amount of money that had to be found to produce
we had
this.
to find a producer, we had to find, a director, we had to find money, we had to find a main cast member. So
we had the beginnings of what it was.
We stupidly thought that was just going to happen the following year. No.
It took a little while.
Came back home and back to my beautiful preppies and almost put the dream aside.
Well, we know that we had this incredible time. We had all this stuff, but how we were going to pull it together was the next stage. So the next podcast that you're going to hear is how that next step took place.
It gets messy. I have to warn you, it gets messy.
But there's some great things, Donna, in terms of finding some soldiers' names.
But there's some horrible things
the
too that we
adding,
have to wake up to.
The adding of the town of Childers to the story.
Yeah, which is really important, and that's our Australian connection then. So maybe we needed an extra couple of years to make it all make sense, to make it really meaningful when we actually get
But
there.
it's certainly part of the whole story. So, look, join us for the next one. Look for the bonus podcast called The Noah's Caves. And, Donna, what happens next?
Well, you'll find out next week, but I'm going to have another glass of wine just to ease me into it.
Now, what were we drinking today?
Moet.
Moet. Enjoy that one. And if you're ever at Epinay in the
Absolutely,
Champagne region,
Dom Perignon and all.
go and
all
have a
that
look at the
wonderful
Champagne
stuff.
Caves there.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, have a great week. Au revoir.
Au revoir, and it gets more complicated. So maybe next week you need to have a wine too to get
Yes.
through the next bit of mess.
But, Donna, why not?
Take a
Take a chance.
I don't know.
Take a chance.
Yep, okay.
See you later, guys.
All right, bye.